My name is Ch-a Mosley, and I became a first-time mom at the age of 47. And a lot of times women want to know a bit about my story. So I'm just going to roll it out, nutshell version for you right here. First of all, it was never my plan to have a baby this late in life, okay? I don't think any woman is intentionally having a baby this late, her first baby anyway. I think I'm like every other woman where I thought, when I was a young lady, oh, okay, I'll get my degree, which I did. I went to Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia. I'll meet my man and I'll get my job, and then we'll date, we'll court, and then, the timeline. And I thought that I would be married and started on a family in my 20s, upper 20s, lower 30s, like for sure, maximum, right? But that didn't happen. And I can honestly say, that my struggle was in dating. Like, you might wonder, well, did you have health conditions? My body is totally healthy, but I really struggled with men. I really did. I mean, I went through a period of mannishness where I was a heartbreaker. I didn't care, whatever. Along the way, I've had my own feelings hurt too. But in there was just a lack of understanding of my value as a woman. And I'm not going to say that I had an overall low self-esteem, because that would be incorrect too. But there was a lack of appreciation for what I brought to the table when it comes to relationships and what I really should have been looking for in a man. I just sucked at that. And so that's the honest truth. And so it took me some time, right, to come into my own as a woman. But time as a teacher, experience as a teacher, self-work, starting to learn a little bit more about myself, about life, about the mind. And around my mid-30s is where I really felt like I started to come into myself as a woman. But yet and still, I didn't have that right man, right? And I wasn't necessarily dating bad men. For example, I dated a man. He's a really nice guy. Like, till this day, I'll say it. He's not a bad person. He was upfront though. He said that he never wanted to get married and he never wanted to have children. And I justified that relationship because, one, my mom and dad didn't get married until I was 28 years old. My mom and dad had been together all these years just off their own head of steam and their own sense of love and responsibility to one another. So I don't actually have a concept or an idea that a couple has to be married for commitment. That is not what I was brought up with, right? So when this man told me that he didn't ever want to get married, I was like, well, that's okay. I was raised by parents that weren't married. You don't have to be married to show commitment. But he also told me he never wanted to have children. And what these things really were was his unwillingness to fully commit. Right? It wasn't that he was like, listen, I'm in it to win it with you, honey, but I don't believe in the institution of marriage. He just doesn't believe in the institution of marriage, or didn't. He does now. But he wasn't in it, right? And when all was said and done, a week before my 41st birthday, he broke up with me. He dumped me. I got dumped a week before my 41st birthday. He saw how miserable I was in this situation. Like, it just wasn't working out, So with that, like, there I was, already 40 and believing now, well, shoot, I wasted my last childbearing years on a man that never wanted to have children. True story. And so I didn't beat myself up about that. It was just kind of like, that milk is spilt. No need in crying over it. But that is what I really believed. And so there was a time where I was single for a while, right? And then I jumped back into the dating game in my lower 40s. And I still just didn't meet the one. It took me some time. And here I was single. I remember I was in my kitchen and I was like, that's it. I was 44. And I was like, that's it. I'm tired of being single. This year, I'm meeting my man. This is the year I'm meeting my guy. And I decided that I was just going to go on dates. I actually got on a dating website, and if a guy would ask me out, I would say, okay. I was like, I'm just going to create on dating. It wasn't like I was just going to settle with anybody or sleep with anybody. Like, that's not what I mean. But I was just going to open a door to men until I found my guy. And I wrote down everything that I was looking for. And I kind of inspected myself. What did I need to be to get the kind of guy that I wanted? And when I say 2 weeks later we met, 2 weeks later, we met. Um, and I recognized him because I had written up what I was looking for. And one of the things I had written down, I don't know if I was on Tamron Hall. I was on a Tamron Hall show. You can look at my episode. The episode was called Glad I Waited. And they pulled up, like I have a book where I write down, what I was looking for in a man. And one of the things that I was looking for, like they showed the book on the show, my write-up. One of the things I was looking for was somebody who would send me gifts in the mail. I really like packages. Which makes it fun being an influencer because I get lots of things in the mail. But I feel like when somebody takes the time to mail you something, then it shows that they were thinking about you when you weren't around, right? And so I wanted somebody to buy me gifts. And from I want to say like our second, third date, like he would bring me little trinkets, little gifts. And even though they weren't in the mail, he was bringing me things. And so I was like, I like gifts, and he always has gifts. And that was one of the cute things that I really liked. And he settled down very fast. He was very open, no secrets. And I'll tell you guys how we met in detail later. But I will say I just met him at his job. So I knew he was also employed, and I knew where he worked, and I knew he wasn't a scammer or anything weird. He was just a hardworking, honest man. And anyway, not too long into our relationship, we talked about the subject of having children because his friends started asking, like, "What do you think you could have children? Would you want to have children?" And so, we started talking about it, but then it got to the point where we were being intimate, and we really needed to talk about it. And I was just like, "Would you like to have a baby?" And when I asked him that question, like, I didn't prep him for it. I just kind of shot it out there, and I could see him looking at the idea. And I could see his answer before he said it. I saw it on a smile on his face. And he nodded and he said, "Yeah, I would like that." And so that was like one of the first conversations we had, which is me asking him. But then later on, we talked about it a bit further, and I let him know, like, "Hey, listen, I don't want to do IVF. I don't want to do anything like that. Like at this age, I feel like it's unfair to put myself through that, If we're going to have a baby, that baby's going to have to come on his or her own head of steam. But I'm not going to go through that. And plus, we were so happy. I didn't want our relationship to pivot into the baby making, because IVF is such a big investment that you can't help but get caught up in the hopes and the upsets and the finances and everything that comes with that journey. And I know a lot of couples have gone that way, and that's how they got their baby. And I'm not saying don't do IVF. I'm just saying I knew that wasn't for me. I just was not going to involve all that in my life. So we decided, okay, it's got to come naturally. And you know what? I got pregnant naturally with him at 45, and that pregnancy didn't stick. It was a blighted ovum, whatever. It was a non-viable pregnancy. But when that miscarriage started to happen, and I was working with my doctor, something very important happened. And that is that my OBGYN at the time didn't make me feel bad about my miscarriage. She never blamed it on my age. She was like, "Listen, the fact that you can get pregnant at your age is the most important thing. And you can get pregnant again." And that was the best thing at that moment in time, because that pregnancy at 45 really did spark my hopes of like, maybe I can become a mother. Like maybe I can do it. Because I've always wanted a family. And yes, I had kind of accepted that I wouldn't have a family, but I always wanted a family. So maybe we can do it. And those words at that time are so valuable and so important. And I appreciate her for that. And wouldn't you know, 10 months later, another natural conception at the age of 46. And I went on to deliver my baby girl nice and healthy, carried her to term at the age of 47. My name is Ch-a Mosley. I am the founder of Pregnancy Over 40. I am the Oprah of fertility. I want a baby for you, a baby for you, a baby for you. I have my own private Pregnancy Over 40 community for women who are still walking the walk, whether they are still single and looking for a man or deciding, forget it, I'm going to do IVF, whether the women are married and been trying for a long time. I have just provided a safe space for women to walk this journey. I provide resources, I provide information, and I provide just inspiration and cheerleading that it can be done. That is who I am. That is my pregnancy journey in the tightest nutshell that I can give it. I will give more videos like this because I know you guys want to know, and I've been telling it in short form on YouTube and TikTok, but it's not enough. So I'll do more here on YouTube. Nice to meet you.